It's like
Podcast.
sandpaper.
These
That's
like
crazy.
sandpaper? Really? You think so?
Yeah.
What do you do when your hands go like this?
I mean, yours just
Sounds the
sound.
same.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yours just sound extra dry.
I have some calluses, but that's really about it.
I don't know.
Making fun of my hands.
Just gotta get some lotion.
Welcome back to the BG Perform podcast with my co-host, Coach Jerry Hayes, and a special guest all the way from Sweden, Coach Daniel Pearson. How's it going?
Who?
Yeah.
Both of them.
What an intro. Yeah.
Daniel first.
Yeah.
Jerry, let's go here. Daniel's the guest, so
Yeah.
how about you be
Daniel
courteous?
first. Daniel first.
Yeah. Honored to be on the podcast. I've listened to you guys, and excited to get to talk some coaching and all the things that I enjoy talking about, like program design, coaching, how to deal with clients. It's whenever I get the chance to discuss those topics is amazing.
Yeah, and Daniel and I also do Behind the Design. If you ever get, the chance to listen to that, we do that once a week. We dive into some specific aspects of coaching. Daniel's also kind of from the same background in regards to education-wise for coaching, and we've been doing that Behind the Design for a while now. I think it's been almost 3 months, right?
Yeah. I'm
Just
so
about
bad
3
at
months.
Yeah.
I don't know, but so we dive into a little bit more of the nitty gritty specifics of coaching in that series that we do. Obviously, on this podcast, we talk about whatever we feel like talking about in regards to fitness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to have Daniel on the podcast. Little bit of a different tone here probably than what you're normally used to. So we'll be good with it. But Jerry, how was the week for you?
Week's been good. Working out. I've been eating a lot more. So started that whole Hard Gainer series that I've been working on, Hard Gainer's Guide to Growth, and I'm being the poster child of it to show that it works. And boy, am I eating a lot. I forgot, I've been in maintenance for so long, I forgot how hard it is to put down calories, especially when you're up at 3,000 and then you got to keep eating more. It's like, okay, let's get another meal in, that type of thing. So it's been really good. Training's been great, getting strong, solid pumps. Work has been busy, been getting a lot of new clients, a lot of them with injuries, coming to me with injuries, but already improving. I got 2 guys with a knee, 1 person with a shoulder, and all 3 are seeing pretty good growth and pretty good.
Any progress from the one we talked about last week?
Yeah, man. He said that he's been out of town. He's been flying. He said he hasn't had an issue. He's really excited to come back on tomorrow. So just continue to push forward. He's been doing really well.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Brandon?
Good. Working, grinding, doing our thing.
Yep.
Just trying to talk. I talk a lot Tuesday and Wednesday. A lot of talking hours with Coach Connect. Got Behind the Design. Got this today. So a little bit earlier than we normally do because we had to basically make it work for Daniel because I wanted him on the podcast. But you're 10 hours ahead, right?
It's better now when we change the time. What is it? It's 5 p.m. my time now. So what's
Okay, so you're about 6 hours ahead.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
You got to make it work.
8 for me. Yeah.
Yeah, for 8 because Jerry's 2 hours behind me.
We're all living in different time zones.
I'm the
Daniel's
time
living
that
in the
everybody
future.
works off of, though, for the most part. Everybody works off East Coast time. So today we're going to dive into a couple different conversations. It's not often we get to talk to coaches from other areas of the world. And for the matter of where Daniel's kind of taken his business and where he's grown it to and the experience he has as a coach and his background. And we had a conversation a little bit yesterday after Behind the Design talking about some of the differences from coaching overseas versus coaching here in America with my experience from when I was traveling and the things that I saw. Cause I do think there's some pretty, I wouldn't say glaring in a negative way differences, but there are some differences in regards to coaching and how it's handled or thought of overseas and the infrastructure. So I want to get Daniel's opinion and kind of how it's seen here because it's definitely more organized here. And then I also want to dive a little bit into Daniel and his business, his background, where he's kind of taken things because he's done some really cool things over the last couple of years. He had a conference that he basically was a speaker at recently. I'll give you some time to talk about that. And then, I just like talking about program and coaching with Daniel. So I thought it'd be a good conversation. So we'll start with, cause I think this conversation is important to have, but starting with like that difference between, well, actually, maybe we should start a little bit with your background first so people know. Then don't get to the background at the end. But so Daniel, give a little bit of background, tell us about your coaching, where you've gone, and we'll take it from there.
Well, my background is, as of now, I'm a full-time remote coach. I've owned and or managed CrossFit gyms. So at one point in life, it was when I studied at university, I was doing coaching on the side, and I studied business studies, and I was presented with the opportunity to go full-time in fitness. Still quite a gambling case, but still the opportunity to go full-time. And my wife basically said to me that it's I'm not going to have you, and this is actually what she said to me, like, I'm not going to have you sitting at a finance department thinking what if. So if you're going to do this coaching, like fitness thing, you need to go all in. That's all I ask. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give you one promise, because it's not going to be super well paid in the beginning, at least. It's going to be weird working hours when I have to be like on site in the morning and in the evening. So if you at any point feel like this is not working, you just let me know, because you're my top priority. I value you the most, but I will go all in and try to make this work. So I did. I started off by managing a gym, then progressed into, I always had my kind of remote coaching business on the side from when I started at university, and that has followed me along through the journey. But then I own and manage gyms, and 2 years ago I decided to, I think it's 2 years, decided to go full remote. So I sold my gym, my shares in it, and just went full remote. Super scary, but it's it was a good choice looking back now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple really powerful things. Obviously, like having that commitment with somebody, knowing you have a life with somebody and trying to take that chance. It's like really important. Someone trusts you. So it's really nice to like know that your wife, your significant other is like, yeah, listen, like you better at least go for it. You know what I mean? I don't want you like half-assing it, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think a lot of people struggle just strictly for that reason, whether it be a significant other or just being 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and not fully committing to something. And I think once you fully commit, which I think, like, again, there is no other option, that's when you see success, and that's when you actually get where you need to get. Because sometimes, I don't know if it's just like a energy thing, but it's like when you have no other option, you pull it out when you feel like you can't. And I think that's another thing that I think we've probably all experienced, is that when you're in that position, like, hey, this is what I do, this is who I am, I don't want it to be anything else. You do what you got to do. You go to the places you got to go. You get in front of the right people. You just do whatever it takes. And I think that's like powerful to realize that, but also, again, have somebody behind you who's like, listen, do what you got to do, but just make sure it's 100%, And I also think that experience of which we've talked about a little bit is like from selling your gym into stepping in online. I think there's a lot of challenges that go into that. And I think a lot of people would look at that and be like, oh, wow, that's my dream. Right. And I'm sure that like your experience, which I wanted you to dive into, is there's probably pros and cons. There's things you love, there's things you missed. But I think doing it in the right way can actually get you there and make it sustainable. Because I think a lot of people make that change in a very unsustainable way. And then they either, they fuck up, or they just don't know, how to fix it if it's not like a sustainable thing. So dive a little bit into that transition from being a gym owner into like a full-time remote coach. Jerry, if you have any questions too, obviously ask.
Yeah, I want to get the answer to this one, then I'll build on it.
Yeah.
And like, I'd say that like freedom has been a big part of what I tried to create, and freedom to me meant that, and what I've figured out is that if you think, I think about it as priorities, and then we have decisions and behavior and kind of link between our schedule and priorities. And as soon as our schedule is not linked to our priorities and values, friction shows up. And this is how I coach my clients as well. It might be that they don't spend enough time, or they don't make time for training, and then they get disappointed, and friction shows up. And in the fitness industry, what usually happens is we try to counter that with discipline or motivation. But what I try to do is create a schedule with no friction, and that is freedom to me. It doesn't mean that I'm not working. It's just that, and what I mean by that is I always loved individual design and coaching, and always actually being in remote, and being the gym owner, and progressed into that role, and ended up managing 2 CrossFit gyms as well as a remote coaching business. I got so far from the actual craft of individual design and individual coaching, and I ended up having in that role, like if a coach got sick or the awkward times that no one wanted to take, that was on me. And that pushed on my schedule, where things that was more like, they were truly more in line with my values and priorities, like spending time on individual design, making sure I'm a good coach to my individual clients. But if I had to fill the class, or fill the holes in the schedule, that took priority, even though, and that created friction within me. So I just felt like one day I ended up thinking about, I just sat down basically, and like, I don't enjoy program design as I used to do. I don't enjoy individual design, individual coaching as I used to do. And I'm not feeling that. I'm not sure that my clients noticed, but I just got this creeping feeling of, I'm not delivering and doing, I'm not being the coach I want to be, in the sense that I'm not delivering the value I'm truly proud of, and I think I have the potential to do.
Yeah.
So something needed to change, and I decided to go for remote, because given what I value and my priorities, that meant freedom. Not to say that remote is, it's so easy to think that remote coaching is like the given answer to a flexible, free, like, working time. And
Yeah.
I've said this before, that it's, yeah, but you're going to be spending a lot of time at a desk. Some coaches like to deliver a session or a class, and when they're out of the gym, they don't have to think about training, they don't have to think about clients. And that can be a sort of freedom if that's your, like, values and priorities. But to me, it ended up being remote coaching, so I took that step. And also, I had an existing remote coaching business alongside my gym that I could look at it as like, okay, this is going to support me like full time if I just take the step and go for it. And yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up in full time remote coaching.
Beautiful. Jerry, did you have a question off that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's important to know when you hit that point. A lot of people will feel almost like that burnout feeling, where they're still, they want to do their work in the fitness industry, but they hit this wall where they can't pinpoint what's causing that feeling. So one, I think it's important that you recognize, like, okay, I'm having to cover classes when people don't show up. I'm trying to manage a gym. I'm trying to program. Then I have to do other people's work in my place, and that kind of adds this sense of, it gives sense of the word freedom for what it feels like to have that complete remote feeling. Because when your schedule is that unpredictable, it can take a toll on you, because you could do all you can to try and, I guess, gather your resources and make sure that things are moving smoothly. But when you're relying on other people that much, it can kind of eat at you. And I think you made a good point. You just said that remote coaching is a lot of sitting at a desk. It's much different than being in the gym, on the gym floor, coaching movements, getting that interaction with people all day. So I guess most people, my question comes from this, is most people will say, I'd love to be a remote coach. I just want to work completely online. What would you say is the the side of it that people don't see. So obviously sitting at a desk would be one of them. Most people think it's an easier job to just have a remote position, but you still have to be a good coach. You still have to have client outreach. Your programs have to be stellar, obviously, because you can't be there in person to coach through those corrections. What would you say the side of the remote coaching that people don't see is, I guess, what would you say that side is that people don't see, I guess, is my main question.
I think it comes down to, like, if I sell it as like individual design or remote coaching, I'm going to be there with you even outside of the training session. And when you explain that value, if you think about it, it also means like, okay, I'm going to have a hard time taking a vacation if I don't manage this right. So if you say that you'll answer within 24 hours, I don't like, some coaches like set expectations on the relationship, and they sometimes, when time goes by, feel trapped in that this is never ending. I'm doing design on this day, and then I'm just getting to the next week, and then next week, and I reply to messages, and like, how am I going to take any time off? So that's a thing that when you discuss with people, you might be in a dinner and discuss what you do at work, and they'd be like, okay, so at first they might be like, that's the dream job. You can just travel when you want, you can be wherever you want. But then it comes the question like, okay, but when are you completely off? And the honest answer is, I have systems to implement when I go on vacation, but still the honest answer is I'm never truly off. So it's kind of like you're paying the price of being somewhat free all the time, with never completely free, if that makes sense. So it's
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I also think like we love it. That is kind of hard to turn off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
even if we wanted to, it's like, oh well, even if I wasn't doing this, I'd be thinking about it anyways. So it's just kind of hard to like turn it off. But keep going.
Yeah, and for me, I have a hard time taking a vacation just for the sake that I'm the kind of coach. I build my coaching practice on quite close interactions. I don't want to have too big of a roster in terms of number of clients, and also in my coaching style, I'm dependent on doing. Even though I lay out a plan, I do my design weekly just to keep it fresh and always be able to pick it up. And I can, when I go traveling, I usually do like 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Just ask my clients to have a look, and if there are any questions, and go through it in the last coaching call before I go. But still, when I get back, I feel like I miss out on things, even though I like look back, and it creeps on a feeling where I like. I'm losing connection with my clients in the sense that I'm not up to date and I'm not in that groove, and it gets harder to get back into it. So it's that's a big thing, that it's an ongoing thing. You're never completely free, and that's the price you pay for the flexibility you enjoy like on a regular basis.
Yeah, I also think like in that setting, it's almost expected that. Like I think some coaches have very high skill sets in the right settings, right? And I think when you take them out of those settings, it's normal. It happens all the time. And I think to be an online coach at a high level, you have to have a certain set of skills. One of those is designing skills. One of those is communication skills. And I think what kind of gets taken away is that obviously that in-person aspect of like, hey, I'm seeing this person. They can see my body language. They can see my facial expressions. They can know when I'm joking. They can know when I'm kind of like having a laugh, whatever. But like, I think you miss that, which is an important part of the connection online. And I think that part you have to kind of make up with access, right? And I think that's what Daniel was just talking about. It's like, well, if I can't be there to have that 1 hour that makes up for all the other hours, I have to be there. So they're they might not be getting that connection through like being with me, but they're getting that connection being like, I'm there when I need them, right? And that's a big aspect of coaching that I think a lot of people who want to make that jump make a mistake on. And I also think, going back to like the gym ownership side of things, I think what online coaching allows you to do is exactly that, like focus on design, right? And focus on coaching, focus on design work, because you don't have those hours that are being filled. I remember specifically when I owned a gym, when I looked at my day, I was spending, of the 12-hour days that I was working, 8 of them were probably spent on like admin and actual like in the gym stuff, where it's like whether it be coaching, cleaning, payroll, accounting, something like that, and then there was like sporadic hours throughout the week that I would be like, cool, I can program, cool, I can program, cool, I can program. So I think what happens is a lot of these people, and I'll say this, when you're in person, right, you get to do the job, right? You get to do the job in real time. You get to be in front of people, and that really builds connection. Like that's where, and that's why it's so powerful, is like when you're in front of somebody, when you get to see them, when you get to have that conversation, you get to really like build something where it's a tight connection that you oftentimes get more out of, right? And I think the online setting, again, has to be for the right people. It has to be for the right coaches, but it can be very rewarding, right? Because in the same breath, all the things that Daniel's talking about, all the things he's searching for, all the freedoms and structuring things he has, right? So it's like it can be very rewarding and very powerful, but it could also, there's that side of it that you miss out on that you almost have to like make up for with, I guess access, we'll just call it, more like volume based stuff. It's checking in, making sure they're doing things, checking over the workouts, making sure the notes are good, making sure you're updating things when they need it, because you can't see it in real time. So I think that there's such a powerful thing to online coaching or individual design, as like myself and Daniel will call it, and Jerry. There's such a powerful piece to it, but there's also this aspect of like, you can just focus on coaching. And I think that's what we all strive for at the end of the day. Cause I think me and Daniel talked about this a bunch of times, but like marketing sucks sometimes. It's like, we're not marketers. We're not people who manage, who like to manage while we can, right? I think we've probably all been now at this point, like a managing position of a facility. And it's like, yeah, we can do it. Like, it's nice, like whatever. It's maybe a little bit more consistent, whatever. But like, I think all of us love that piece of coaching, and that's why we do this, and that's why we talk about it, and that's why we breathe it. That's why we do everything with it. And I think, where I would kind of want to go with the next part of this is, you made the transition. You went from gym ownership, you went to online coaching, and now you're kind of, we're spreading things, right? We're doing behind the design. You've had this coaches congress. We have other things that we've talked about and like kind of worked on. What are because Jerry kind of asked, like, what are I guess the negative sides of it, but like, what are the beautiful things that's brought you as being an online coach and finding that freedom, and dive into that a little bit.
I'm happy you went there. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So freedom to me is like coaching in a way that makes sense and matters to me, but also having and that's kind of the obvious one. Having the possibility to work from anywhere has been a big one.
Can I ask a question too? How many times have you actually worked from somewhere else? just curious.
It's funny because the true story is that I sold my gym and then I rented my office from the new owners. So
I just know I was a little bit different. Obviously, I was traveling for a reason, and I worked in a couple different countries. But now I'm like an online coach, and like I have that freedom to do whatever, and I'm just sitting here.
You just stay at home and do it at the desk anyway.
I can coach from anywhere in the world. I'm staying right here.
I said it to my wife. It's like I need to be really careful now because as you know, I've ordered gym equipment to my office, and it's like
a little gym right next to
it. In my apartment, and so I just said to her like one day, I basically I don't have to leave my apartment. I can work, I can train, I can do anything here. I'm in a bit like scary situation where I can just choose to not meet people, and that's not a good thing.
He's gonna close the door. He's gonna come out with a 6-foot Viking beard.
He's gonna be completely feral.
A
chicken leg just.
She'll be like, Daniel, are you okay?
It just speaks in grunts. That's
yeah.
I haven't met anyone in like 2 years, but yeah, it's and it's almost like on the same topic as what where coaches usually go wrong when they think about remote coaching. Like, I'm going to start my remote coaching business because then I can coach anyone anywhere. Like, you're probably better off just start coaching your local community. The successful remote coaching business I've seen started in a gym or in a local community and then kind of spread out from there. And I think so. Yeah, remote coaching doesn't mean like I'm just traveling all the time and coaching from anywhere. It's if I give you an example, it's one thing I enjoy. I just decided, I think it was 3 weeks ago. Well, I'm fed up with the weather in Sweden. Let's travel to a warmer place for a week, me and my wife, and we did it. And being able to, and not being tied down to committing to classes or a class schedule where I have to be on the venue. I can actually go whenever I want, but a lot of times I just stay home and enjoy my regular days. But having that freedom is important to me, and also having the freedom to, if I want to jump on a fun project that makes sense to me and aligns me to my values, I have the freedom to move things around. And it took some time for me to figure out that thing, because it's sometimes when I feel friction back to priorities. A lot of times when I feel friction in my schedule, I go back to the exercise I do with my clients when we start our when I start working with them, is like list your top 5 priorities, and it might be I want to be I want to spend time with my family. I want to perform at work, and they list like 5 things, and we'd be like, okay, let's put it in that order into your calendar, and that's the same thing I do. As soon as I feel friction, I start pushing things around in my schedule in work. I usually go back to like, what's my top 5 priorities right now in work, and most of the times new project or something has kind of found their way into my list of priorities, and I just redo the scheduling exercise, list the top 5 priorities, put them in that order, and that's usually what it takes to get back into the groove. But I'm just a person that wants to jump on cool, fun things and cool opportunities, and that makes my list of priorities a bit more varied, I'd say, over time, and having the possibility to be agile and match those shifts in priorities is freedom to me.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing too, is obviously when you're aiming to be an online coach, the freedom, I think freedom's a good word, and I've heard you use it a lot. Obviously you had like that whole what do you call it? The conference you did that you spoke at, like that was basically based around freedom. And I think a lot of people want freedom. They want freedom in a lot of ways. But I think, the cool thing about it obviously is like, we do this obviously because we love coaching, but also because, you start a business like this, or you start your own business because you want to be able to like build the life that you want. And I think a lot of people get that confused, and they try to start a business for the simple fact of like, I just want to make a ton of money. And I think that's fine. It's not to say it's wrong. It's just like when you start chasing money like that, or you start sacrificing things in your life to get that, it eventually starts to, you wake up one morning and you're like, you're just right back in the same position. And I'm sure with you, and like one of the things I want to talk about is like the systems you've put in place to make freedom actually like work for you, because I think it's very easy to say like, hey, freedom, 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 right? But then it's like, you know what it's like to just sit at a desk for your own day, and you have to set up your day, right? No one's being like, all right, Daniel, you got a class at 8, you got, these people coming in at 10, you got to clean the gym at 11. It's like you wake up in the morning and essentially have a day, and you're like, how am I going to use these hours, right? How am I going to progress? How am I going to make sure I'm moving in the right direction? And you have to wake up and do that, right? So what are some of the things that you've kind of like set into your day, created, that help you make your schedule? Because this was a hard thing for me when I first made that transition, and I was like full time in Florida, and then I moved. I started traveling with Ian. I remember the first couple of days, I was like, this feels like vacation, but like I feel like I shouldn't be on vacation. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I would wake up with like the work I had to do, and then it was kind of like what else should I do? How do I do that? Like, I was in such a like a mental struggle for 6 weeks because I was just like, what, like, I guess I have to do this. Like I was kind of like waiting for someone to tell me what to do. And like I only had to work for like an hour or two a day with Ian, and then the rest of it was just like do whatever I got to do. So it was like, I always find that conversation interesting because I think that's another thing people don't think about. It's like I got to make my own schedule. I got to show up. I got to wake up, do everything. So what are some of those pieces for you?
Yeah, like having set times for
Loser,
identify.
you lost him a little.
Am I back or what's the?
I can hear you. Yep.
There we go.
Now you're clear.
Yeah.
Crystal clear.
We're good.
There we go.
Lost them for a second.
Whew.
Unless you can't hear us.
I
Might
can
be
hear
a
you.
slight delay from it. Okay, cool.
We can always
Right.
take this part out if we need to.
I think we're good now. All right. So, what was the question? It was the systems, right?
What systems? Yeah, what systems have you used to create that freedom in your coaching?
Yeah. So, I divided into like the big picture, and the big idea on how I approach it is who we coach, how we coach, and like whenever I implement a system, I look at it from two perspectives. So I wanted to enhance clarity and presence. So that's really important to me. So if let's take comments as a system, I rely on like a session feedback. I try to always be creating clarity as well as presence. So as an example, I can give them good job with that power snatch, and I can also give them good job with that hip extension on that power snatch. Just a good job will create presence. They'll know I've seen it, and but if I also make clear what did I like about it or what's good about it, I also create clarity, and that's usually how I coach being on the floor as well. I don't want just to say good job, or I just don't want to create clarity for that sake. I also want to show presence that I care and that I'm here, and going to like being on the remote side, you need systems to be present, and that's a big difference. So setting actual time to sit down to respond to comments, go through like session feedback and things like that is super important, because the perception of this is super flexible and I can do it whenever usually ends up with people just pushing it to later of the day or later of the week, and then they'll have this like huge amount of work they need to do. Stresses, just forces like program design and client communication, which probably will end up the quality will suffer, and especially with program design, which has a kind of creative element to it. It being forced, it's not like just writing sessions because you have to write the session because you're at a deadline. That's not a very good situation to be creative in terms of program design.
Yeah.
So, and same with, like if we think about coaching systems in terms of AI and all the tools that's like tools available now to make it easier for you as a coach, or at least like decrease the time you need to spend on each client. The problem with that is I feel a lot of times that I lose the presence part. So if I come across as generic, or my approach to my clients, they perceive me as more generic and not as personal, I lose presence. So whenever I implement the system, I try to make sure to look at it from presence and clarity. If I implement this, will it enhance clarity or presence? It can take away on either of those. So it might be that you have this AI bot that explains everything super well, but my clients will like realize, okay, this is not Daniel who's actually communicating with me, and boom, I just created distance to my client, and I'll lose value because the value is not in like the actual. It's like when people ask about individual design, and how many sessions do I get? It's like, if we are counting value in terms of you get 2 sessions or 5 sessions, you kind of misunderstood the value here. It's not the actual program. It's me coaching you, and the program is a tool for us to get to wherever we want to go. So planning out my days is super important. Making sure I have time, set time for, especially where I'm vulnerable in terms of creativity. So making sure I have a bunch of time for program design. Setting scheduled time for when I reply to messages, as well as having the system to, as I mentioned, like if I want to go on vacation, I have my like standard up like SOP on how what I need to do. I need to give them a slightly longer coaching call before I go, so we can go through all the coming 3 weeks. I need to just give them a message in advance, like, okay, you want to energized coach. I'm taking a week off or 2 weeks off. And of course, I'll be answering any questions you might have, but I appreciate if you will look through the coming 3 weeks, let's say. Mm-hmm. And having those systems in place to manage to not end up at a place where flexibility becomes your enemy, really, is the big thing. And because you need to create them yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's it. You got to create them, and I think as a coach, we all have online clients. It gets difficult. I remember early on, like I think some of the things you talked about when I first really started online coaching, you kind of like forget that there's pieces to it that like you have to be better about. And like it's scheduling, it's, making sure you're taking that time to not rush through it or do it and not just get it done just to get it done. Because I think that's what a lot of people do. And I think one of the biggest things I kind of like took away from what you're talking about is just that like the systems are there to allow you to be a better coach in the time that you need to coach. And then also teaching your clients too, like I think that's huge to be like, hey, listen, like I'm here when you need me, but like I'm going to take a week off. Here's what I need. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to focus on. And I think that's why it's also really important, like now that we have a system like Coach RX to use, because I think that has every single tool you need, whereas before it might have not been as accessible or as feasible to run an online business and have it be as smooth as it is, right? And I think, you could use the spreadsheet, you can make your own whatever, but it's just the ease of access, the ease of delivery, the ease of running everything through a system like Coach RX is just makes the end of the day like you can sleep well at night because like everything's done, and if there isn't, you'll see it, right? And it helps you run your business.
I'll give you an example in Coach RX. One thing that I think for coaches being on site, the kind of the feature in Coach RX, like the touch points. I've heard people not valuing that or think it's such a like valuable tool within the platform. Because they meet their client during the session, they have like actual interaction. But for me, keeping that just as an assurance that I make sure to have touch points with my clients is huge. And that's like an example on how that feature in the system is so important for me being remote, just to make sure if we go back to presence, that's a really good way for me to track presence with my clients.
I think the the answer that you gave based on the systems was beautiful. Not only because all the things that Brandon took away from it, because those were parts of it that I didn't even like really put together, but the idea that it does take a certain type of person to be able to run an online business like that and be able to be successful for a couple different reasons. One, building your own schedule is tough. Having the initiative and the drive to say, I need to get this done by this time, and you're setting deadlines for yourself.
That's how most people fail anyways. Like most people don't fail, or they fail because they just don't even know how to do that. And that's literally the most important thing. But
yeah. And if you don't do that, like you said, you fail. So that's where I love that, because it shows that you truly need to be diving deep into your work and have a very good system. You need to be very organized, but also 2 other points is the first one being, it's really important. We always say this. It's better to start off in person rather than online, because
Yeah,
going
100%.
from in person to online, you can carry forward those habits that you've built as a coach. If you mentioned the hip extension, I think you said through a clean, was it? For your example, I think, but you said great hip extension, not just yeah, it looks good. So being
Yeah.
specific like that, being able to give that feedback, so you in the next set that you're going to witness, you can see those changes. So those minor cues that you make are huge in person, and they are even bigger online, because if you don't have that clarity and you aren't that specific, next week, how do we expect that improvement? How do we expect that refinement of the movements that they're doing? And then the final thing is that clarity really comes from passion, because you're not going to, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, like if you are in this just for the money, you're going to see somebody perform
In the wrong
a
fucking business, if that's the case.
a what?
Said you're in the wrong business, if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. So that's you need to be passionate if you want to make money in this field as it is, but if you're in it for the wrong reasons, it's just not gonna be good. So like if you see a movement and you do have that clarity, it does come from passion, because you truly want people to get better. And if you don't have that passion, you haven't been a coach in person, and you aren't organized and driven, online coaching isn't for you. So the reason that you can be successful in this field is because you do have all those qualities, and you're willing to put in that work to have the clarity, the passion, and also the knowledge of what it means to be a coach. Because when there is that barrier of whether it's a town away, a state away, a country away, it just gets harder and harder to have that clarity if you don't have the tools set in place from previous experience in person.
Yeah, I think also maybe I'm just like, I don't know. I was just kind of thinking. I don't know that I see as much. Maybe just because I cleaned up my Instagram, but like I don't know if I see as much of like those $5 to $20 per month like general programs that people follow, where it's just like a booty guide workout or like some jack dude on Instagram. Where like I don't know that I see as much of it anymore. And like that to me is like the I guess the pitfall of online coaching, right? Where it's just like you fall into one of two camps usually as an online coach. You either fall into this, I'm just going to make something that's cheap that I'm going to try to get to as many people as possible without any individualization or any sort of customization whatsoever. Or you kind of go down that path of like the two options where like, it's kind of individualized. Like I say it's individualized, but then I don't actually like individualize anything. And it's like a program, right? Whereas like all of us, where like, again, those are pitfalls because you don't actually coach at any point. You don't actually like create real design. You just kind of like put something out there that's hard, right? Whereas like what we do on a weekly basis is like we're literally sitting down and like in the same time that someone like goes to work and does 3 hours of whatever they're doing, like that's our work. So it's like we're
Mm-hmm.
sitting down during the week and we're creating that same time. Like I have a schedule in which I program design, right? So it's like at least an hour or two a day, because that's what one of my mentors taught me, was like sit down and just like work on program design. Just write some programs, write some workouts. Even if you don't have anybody to actually write for, like just sit down and start to write some workouts, because that's how you actually get good at it. And that's how you actually start to see and come up with ideas. And like for me, a big piece of it is inside of that design of program, you can start to play around with it. You can start to see what works and what doesn't. You can start to kind of like come up with other ideas, and it doesn't even have to be a real workout. You can just kind of be like, oh, I wonder what it would look like if I did this, or if I had this set or rep range or whatever it might be. But you need that same time in the trenches or in the in the lab coaching and designing to actually get good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me to kind of transition a little bit, I think that's what I noticed when I went overseas for coaching. And I think I noticed that it's much more of a science, or treated as a science here in the States, as opposed to other places that I've been to. I think people like you, Daniel, there's a lot of coaches like you who are very great coaches, very high level coaches that treat it like a science. But I think it's almost generally treated in those places as more of a thing you do instead of like a science or an art, like it kind of is treated here. Because I think I noticed that a lot when I was in England, when I was in Brazil, especially. Some of these other places, they just didn't have what seemed like the infrastructure to do what we do at the highest level. And I think, again, like yourself, Daniel, like you went out, you probably found the information, found the people, found the places to learn and become a high level coach. And then you brought that back with you. And I'm not trying to like talk shit about the other places, but it's just like, it seemed like it was less of that when I was there. It seemed like the coaches were, they loved it, but the almost like the passion wasn't available to, like, it wasn't, the pathway wasn't necessarily there as clear as it is here. Does that make sense? So I want to talk a little bit about that experience from your end and like what you see it as, and kind of either, I guess, agree with me or tell me why I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I can. If we take Sweden, which basically the one I can talk about, it's just to what you mentioned there. I think it's here. There are a lot of coaches where coaching is just a lengthening of their like identity as an athlete. It might be that you're a good CrossFit athlete and you do some classes on top of that, and I see, as you said, a lot of it's not like the top priority that they're a coach and they might train themselves. It's like they have this training, or they might be an influencer, and you can also buy their program. And we do have that culture in Sweden, and you see it a lot where it's exactly that, but where you're just adding some coaching on top of your identity as an athlete, or yeah,
It's the same way the fighters do it. Fighters do it. I see it all the time. It's fighters who fight, and they either, they don't make it, and they're like, well, I guess I'm just going to start coaching people, but they don't actually love it, right? They love to fight, but they don't love coaching or teaching.
It's just what they know. It's
and
like
that's what
part of
they
their
do.
Identity. Yeah.
And I that's where I see that as well. But keep going.
And one thing that I've given a lot of thought is, in Sweden we do have free healthcare. So basically, when you get sick, you don't have to pay anything, and you're supported by the government. Not completely true, because there's a you get capped out at like $70, and you have to pay the $70. But after that, they'll pay everything. So it's basically free. And what I've seen and what I've experienced, kind of having now a broader perspective on fitness coaching and this industry, is that even if it's good that we do have free healthcare, the problem with that is in Sweden we're not used to having to plan and spend money on our health, and like that side of we're not used to spending money on health and fitness, because if we gotta be honest, like if I get super overweight and get type 2 diabetes, the government's gonna pay my medicine anyway. So it's like, and that's sometimes what I feel the struggle for, because I'm usually quite careful with saying that we're so special, because you'll hear that in any country, any industry, like, oh, it's hard to make it there because we're so special. Like any market and any business is special. But the fact that we do have free healthcare is super good thing in many ways, and we do have to pay a lot of tax, but in other countries you might have more of your income at your own like disposal, and you make your own choices, but then you also need to make sure to not end up super sick, or you need to make sure to be strong and look after who you're going to be in 20 years. And that makes it a bit different, I think, because like the pricing in Sweden compared to many other countries is way lower, and that makes it harder to make it as a full-time coach. I remember being at a seminar. I think we were like 30 coaches in that room, and they asked like, how many of you guys are doing this full-time? I think it was 3, so 2 other than me.
And this is at the Coaches Congress?
No, it was a different seminar.
Okay.
And
In Sweden?
like 10% of the ones in the room was actually full-time coaches, and that's
crazy.
that makes it hard to compete with as well, because the clients and the customers have a hard time to sort out, like, okay, is this, because obviously if you're a full-time, you're going to spend more time doing the craft, and you
Yeah.
probably going to be better at it. But if you have a part-time coach that puts a lot of effort, nothing like bad about marketing, but if we talk about like client facing, what the customer, should I choose this one or this one, there's usually not communicated like this one is has done this full-time professional for like 10, 15 years, and this is just doing it on the side to get some extra money to support their journey to the games, if I'm going to be like harsh. But
Yeah.
it's a hard landscape when you're competing with so many. For one, like prices is hard to push, and also a lot of part-time coaching where they might not take the coaching profession as serious.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
I think
funny
it's hard.
'cause
Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was gonna say I think that a mindset of a society really like it determines how that'll go. So obviously you said it's people aren't used to spending money on their health because it's kind of there and they're taken care of. Where here I feel like even though people are used to spending money on their health, there's something about I feel most people just wait until they have to do the corrective instead of the preventative.
Yeah.
And most people don't think like I was working at a big box gym for a little while where I would see so many people every day and I would have a ton of consultations that I would run through, and it got to the point where my schedule was full, so I would have like a couple hours in the week where they were dedicated toward consultations and then feeding other trainers to help out the management. And when I was doing that, I was meeting more people than before, and a lot of them would come to me and be like, my doctor said I need to lose weight. It's like, okay, so this gym has like the cheapest training ever because it's such a low barrier to get in there as a trainer, that they can offer this like very low pricing for training. And even then people are like, I don't know. It's like, well, your doctor said that you need to lose weight because you're on the road to type 2 diabetes, or you have type 2 diabetes and they're noticing your heart health isn't very good. You need to start moving. And they take the easy road. And I don't know what it is that would separate someone. Like, I'm looking at what you're saying as they're taken care of, so they're not used to spending money. So they kind of say, man, maybe I won't do it. Because why would they spend money if they're not used to it? But then you have people constantly on our side of the world spending all this money into insurance and healthcare. And when it's time to say you don't have to spend that much on your medication and all these doctor's visits if you just go through the preventative,
Yeah.
but they don't do it. So it's the human mind is such an interesting thing to look at when it comes to fitness and overall health.
Yeah. And
It's like,
obviously we don't know the
show
answers,
all-
right?
Yeah.
Or go ahead.
It's like when people say that, oh, it might be expensive. Okay, show me all the transaction you've done, like in your bank account the last month. It's I bet you I will find those money in just like things you waste your money on, and this is your health and fitness we're talking about. So there probably going to be a few things that should be less prioritized in that list of transactions. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think over time, like I think that's another thing too. I think there's obviously like it's an interesting thought, Jerry, because like, I would be interested to hear people's thought process on that, because there are both ends of it. Like, I've talked to it. Well, let me rephrase. I've talked to a lot of coaches in those places, and it's always kind of the same thing about fitness. I think part of it is where I've really focused on recently, which is like, I think the level of coach just needs to be better. I think the barrier of entry to become a coach is way, 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 way too low. I think it should be looked at in a different light. I think it needs to be treated in a different light. I think that people like us three here, we all have, do you have schooling background, Daniel? Like, did you go to like have a degree of any kind? Yeah.
So I did at university. I did my my main was leadership, but that within like business studies, and then I did the education, because it's In Sweden, you get paid to go to university. That's another thing. So
Okay.
it's free to you even get paid like a small amount to be at university. But the one thing that's not included in education at university is becoming a personal trainer. You have to pay it yourself.
Really? Okay. I was,
It
well, I was
is
going to ask. That was going to be one of my next questions. Like, is kinesiology or strength conditioning, is any of that like in educational system there?
Yeah, you can later years, yes, and you can. There are some like training educations now, but it's not as close as big like those fields in Sweden than in US from what I believe, because it's a lot of like personal trainers just go through like a few weeks of education and then basically get straight to work.
Yeah, and that's what I was curious about, because I think the barrier of entry needs to be raised. I think that you should have some sort of education. I think you should have to have some sort of degree, or it doesn't even need to be a degree. It just needs to be some sort of like universal standard, right? And there are a couple in the US. I think the problem is there's so many in the US now that it's just very like, well, what is what? Well, you know, everyone's got letters behind their name, but it's like, what does this even mean? And I think there needs to be some sort of standard created. Unfortunately, usually it has to be kind of across the board. So, you know, I don't have the exact answer to that. But I think with a lot of the things inside coaching, there needs to be a standard so people know what to expect, right? And again, I've had this conversation 100 times, but like, you know what you're expecting when you walk into a doctor. You're expecting to wait 40 minutes past your expected appointment time. You're expected to get told, looked at, get told what's wrong. You know, most of the time they're prescribing something, and then you go from there, right? Where it's like, at least you know, like you're walking in there with like the expectation of what it is. But when it's like, when you go into personal training, there's like this kind of weird or not even expectation. It's like a weird lack of expectation of like, I don't really know who I'm going to work with, who's it's going to be, how much they're going to charge, like that sort of thing, you know. And it's really hard for a lot of people to kind of get their brain around, because it's then that first thing that comes like, yeah, I feel sick, like I don't feel good, but like, you know, oh, that's expensive. And it's like, well, again, like Daniel said, all right, you know, pull up your bank statement. Let's see how much money you spent on Starbucks and all this other stuff throughout the month. And like, let's see if it's actually expensive, right? But I think that priority shift, that mental shift, a lot of people struggle with that, just for the simple fact that what we do is not looked at in that light yet, right? And I hope that like people like us can continue to do that. People like, you know, Daniel, who, you know, you're in a place that maybe it's not as because like that's crazy to hear in a room of 30 people, 3 are full time, right? Like to me, that's
Yeah,
nuts, you know, where it's like, I'm sure a lot of people love coaching over there, right? But like, is it that thought of like, maybe they just don't even know it's possible yet, or they haven't even thought about the way to do that? And it's like, does that just need to be opened up? Does that just need to be, you know, kind of brought to people's attention? Because it's even like when I was in England a lot, there was a lot of gyms that I would stop in at. Like I stopped at probably 50 to 100 gyms in the last 2 years, the last 5 years, just whether it was traveling or just stopping by, whatever. And most of the coaches were kind of like, yeah, I'm here doing it till I get this, or I'm doing this until I go to school,
until
and
I
it's
finish
like,
my
yeah,
real estate license.
yeah, or something like that. And it's like, dang, that sucks. Cause like, you know, no, it doesn't, it's whatever. Cause like, if you don't love it, I wouldn't want you to be in it anyways. But like, what are those people feeling that like do love it? You know, like what is the option for them? Like, is there the path? And I think that's what we're all trying to create. We're all trying to speak about. And I think it's important that like we all have these conversations. We put out the information. We you know, in our own way, create that standard until there's something that's like legit across the board that everybody recognizes and understands. Because it's difficult. It's difficult when you have to have that conversation, when we see coaches struggling, when we love it as much as we do, and we have to kind of like wait 10 years sometimes to see that growth go. But a lot of that goes into the other pieces as well. It's like, you got to be good at marketing, you got to be good at communicating, you got to be good at networking, you got to put yourself in those positions. And I think a lot of it is you learn that as the process goes, and it's like such a beautiful thing once you actually understand it. And I think we've probably all had that light bulb moment before, where it's like, oh no, I can do this. Like I can do this full time. And that's a very rare thing for a lot of people in the world. And I think we're lucky we've even gotten to experience that. And I think about that every single day, because, how many people we talk to, even at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, they're like, I don't really know about life. Like, I'm trying to figure it out still. And like, to a certain extent, we all have it figured out. And the thing, we're like, hey, we love something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, for me, that gets me excited to wake up and be like, wow, I love something and I get to do it. And like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way, or I'm going to do everything that I possibly can. Doesn't mean that if it all went to shit, I wouldn't strap up and go to a restaurant or do what I had to do to like make it happen. But I think that's just the piece of the puzzle where I don't think enough people commit to loving the craft early on. And before they even get that chance to like love the craft, they get bombarded with bad environments like you, Jerry, like in Vasa, where it's like, you're just working in a gym, getting basically
Nothing.
put your face in the dirt, and it's like, you like that? You like that?
I was like barely getting by with working 65 hours in a week between two different gyms. It was rough. And that's where I would love to get to a point so where we see these, where if you were to go to a conference, maybe 28 of the 30 are doing it full time, because I'm excited for the day where we're watching TV and it's like, talk to your coach and see if this is right for you, instead of like, talk to your healthcare professional. Like, we can be the healthcare professional.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get to a place where you go into a gym and they're not, oh, I'm doing this until I get this license, or I'm doing this until I get into this field and I finish every certification I need to start this job. I want this to be the job where people can be passionate and feel like it's a viable option for them to live their life happily, get like, not just get by, but do like, be well off, help people. And also I think that would also help with the passion a little bit more, because some people
100%.
are really passionate about fitness. They say it changed my life, I want to help other people. And then when they do start in a place like Vasa or a Crunch or one of these big box gyms,
It rips your fucking soul out.
What?
It rips your soul out. It's just like, give me that.
Give me it's just like, they think, okay, well, this dream is kind of dead for me. I'm not making enough. I can't pay my rent. I'll just do something else and continue to be passionate about it alone, instead of sharing that passion and building the passion for others.
In one way, passion is the problem as well, because you are competing with, as a professional coach, that you're competing with individuals that are so passionate about it that when they'll be like, okay, I can help you for free because I'm so passionate about it. And then you have a lot of coaches, and you compete with those guys that I can write a training program because I'm super into program design. And so, and it's like, how much you want for it? No, I just do it because it's my passion. And that kind of is the backside of passion in one way, because you'll be competing with a lot of them, and trying to explain why you're different from someone just doing it on the side for as a hobby, or and so and that can be communication wise a bit tricky. And just to the other things you said, when I had my first head coach job when I was 25, and I had a member at that gym, he just asked me like, so what are you actually going to do? I was like, what?
I used to get asked
Let me
that all
take
the
that
time.
dagger out of my heart.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, because I guess you're not going to be coaching for the rest of your life. I was like, yeah, that's kind of the plan, but well,
You guessed wrong, and then you punched him in the throat.
it's
I'll
like,
tell you what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life.
Breathing through a tube.
and I was like, okay, well, yes, that didn't hold the standard being a coach. Well, and for me, it's been like, passion is one thing, but I've always said that I want to, in any profession that I would be in, I would probably, or like any work you do, you create some value, because that's just how it is. But what's been really important to me, and what I've had as a like guidance when I choose what to do, is I want to be proud of my value creation. So it's not just me creating value for a customer. I want to be proud of that. So if I would work at a bank, or as my wife said, finance department, and creating value, I probably wouldn't be as proud as being in a like devoting my professional career to something that can give you 5 more years on your one life that you actually have, and that's a huge difference in terms of what I can be proud of. So
That's funny
Yeah,
because
and I
the
think
passion thing where people are doing it for free and you have to explain in layman's terms to your everyday person what's the difference between somebody who's just doing it on the side, just here and there, versus someone who's doing it all the time. You could kind of flip it a little and say, like, okay, let's say you have to have a major heart surgery. Are you going to go to the doctor that performs the surgery once every month, or are you going to go to the one who's performing 30 a day? You're going to go
Yeah.
to the 30 of the day. You know,
yeah,
he's diving deep. This is his skill that everybody's going to him,
although
right?
I don't know, I've had a couple doctor clients, and they're like running on caffeine. I'm like, I don't know if I want this guy to touch me.
I
He
had
puts a
400
needle near
milligrams
me.
caffeine before 6 a.m. I'm gonna have another 400 at 8.
I had a couple clients in Florida, dude. They were doctors, and dude's like I'm not gonna say what he is, but he was a surgeon of some kind. Sometimes he'd roll in just like, and he's like, I gotta go, I got a surgery. I'm like, who the fuck are you doing surgery?
I hope
Dude
it's on a
wakes up with
mouse, not a real human being. Yeah.
Dude wakes up with a fucking heart in his cap. He's like, oh fuck.
Is this supposed to be pumping like that? You bump your shin and go into a cardiac arrest.
You're just flexing your foot. You're just pumping heart through your body. Your foot's just flexing. So stupid. But yeah, it's like sometimes, like there's that piece of it. But I agree with all of it. I agree. I think also to add on to the passion piece, I think as a coach, you kind of have to protect your passion too. And that's where the pricing comes in. That's where the systems, the offers, that stuff comes in. Because if you want to do this long term, if you want to be a real coach who does this for like the rest of their life, there has to be some structure. There has to be time, like Daniel talked about, to take time off. There has to be structure behind that. There has to be time to understand, like, hey, I got to make a living, right? Like, and that's another thing as well. I think a lot of people struggle with is you don't realize, the consistency that needs to occur for you to actually build a business. There needs to be recurring revenue every single month. There needs to be consistent clients getting consistent results. And that doesn't just happen overnight, right? And I think for us, we build those systems, we build the structure, we build the standard, and then it comes to us and we're able to kind of express that throughout whatever we do over the course of months, years. And then eventually you build your business. You have the say, or the, what do you call it? Like the referral system, you have everything, and it just kind of stacks on top of itself and you run a business. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like committing to it early on, understanding, and then letting it kind of build from there.
Yeah.
So anything else, Daniel? Anything else you want to add to the people that might listen to this?
if you like, make sure to if you're looking to get on the path as a professional coach, you need to invest time and just stick with it, because it's going to be rough in the beginning, and especially when you're competing with, as we said, and not saying that it's a bad thing that people are passionate about training. It's just that you have some marketing to do, and you have some hours to do before you get past that. And as soon as you get to a place where you really can choose what direction you want to take, or if you want to go remote or on site, it's I think it's one of the best professions you can have.
100%. I've never done anything more fulfilling in my life, So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Daniel. You want to tell the people where they can find you?
If they want to see an Instagram, of quite boring Instagram of me doing some deadlifts,
Good
and
Instagram.
listening
It's a
to
good
country,
Instagram.
they can go to Daniel Pearson Instagram, and other than that, well,
Daniel's going to be starting a YouTube channel soon, right?
yeah.
All
If
right,
I figure
there
out
we
how
go.
to do it, it's just what we said. The marketing thing is. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a full client roster, but it's the marketing is, for me, is.
I'm going to do the same thing to Daniel I did to Jerry. If he doesn't start the YouTube channel in a month, we're doxing him. All I know is he lives in Sweden, but
If you need, I've had a bit of experience of ups and downs of YouTube here and there, so I could teach you some of the ways that I've kind of navigated YouTube to grow a little bit more. I'm hoping that mine starts to pick up a little bit too. So I got you. I can show you some tips.
It's funny how I have like 10 plus years of coaching, and then you sit down to figure out a YouTube episode. And it's like, I don't know anything about coaching. It's like,
What the hell am I doing?
yeah.
It's
Well,
dude, as soon as the camera turns on, I forget how to speak. I stutter. My mouth gets dry. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, it's the same with when they asked me to speak at the Coaches Congress. I was like, about what? It's like, it's like about coaching and remote coaching. I was like, I don't know what I have to say about it, but well, okay.
Gotta figure it out.
I guess I'll try. Yeah.
Google remote coaching. Like, okay, well, what's
Just pulls up Chat GPT on the screen.
Types it in.
What
on
is
the
remote
screen.
coaching? Well, remote coaching is.
I don't even know
You
how
give me
I got
5 benefits of remote coaching. It was like,
You turn to the audience and say, if you want, I can also give you 3 examples of remote coaching in different fields. Would you like that?
How
I'm
should I
gonna have
respond
this
to
as
this?
more,
ChatGPT?
more of an interactive lecture where you give me some feedback and I'll put it into ChatGPT and we'll take it from there.
Dude, that's the funniest idea for a skit, dude. That's gold right there.
That's hilarious. Well, as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you do want to work with myself, Jerry, or Daniel, Daniel's got his Instagram, which you just mentioned, or you can find me and Jerry at bgperform_, or at Coach Jerry Hayes, or at www.bgperform.com/training. Also, if you're a coach and you're listening to this and you want to level up, join the Coach Connect, reach out to me. We just finished up Module 1. We just started Module 2, which is the 3 coaching buckets. So we got calls every week, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you're a coach who's interested, we're running a little trial right now for the first 2 calls free. And then we can show you all the options after that. But join in with a group of coaches who are just, like we talked about, trying to create a new standard, trying to show that like you can love coaching and actually be a real coach and have it as a career. So outside of that, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. This episode will be out obviously on Wednesday. And I think that's about it. Check out the next Behind the Design with me and Daniel if you want to dive into a little bit more technical stuff on programming. But as always, I love you guys, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.